Yeah, well, there's some mechanics to it. Come here. So the idea being is that as you are coming back and forth, ideally that the elbow embraces the lung. Okay. Yeah.
Embraces the what?
The lung.
The lung.
Right. Yeah. All right. So what you don't want is this. See how my elbow flares out? So whenever the arm leaves or returns to the body, it should embrace the lung.
Okay, so like that.
Yeah, but you can't do that physically without using your torso and your core. Okay, and we're gonna, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But to your point on that one point, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I think we were just out of camera frame. All right, so let me check, make sure we got everybody. Oh, well, we were just in.
There's
Okay, well,
here.
yeah, right. Well, we may have a couple show up. I know Vicky is not going to be here tonight. I saw her this afternoon. Bob Speed is in a meeting. He just sent me a message. He's going to come in as soon as he finishes up. And then of course Karen and Jean and some of the others may pop in.
They may, but I mean, right now it's just nobody.
Okay, so well, it's all of us, brother. All right. So what we want to do is have a couple of minutes on a couple of Tai Chi principles that we've been working on. We sometimes talk about framework, and we try to work on that. We talk about floating, and we work on that. We worked, I think we've spoken about rotation and buoyancy, okay, which are concepts, and just about everything in the Tai Chi as you first are learning it, you'll always try to mechanicalize it, which isn't really a word, but it makes sense when you hear me say it, especially if you're guilty of doing it like the rest of us, right? But a quick story, the Taoist theories and philosophies of life were very, I would say, quite foreign to me when I was first learning. Late 20s, grew up on the farmlands. Pretty much if something didn't work, you hit it with the hammer. If that didn't work, you hit it with a bigger hammer and a heavier hammer. And there was nothing wrong with breaking something that didn't work anyway, right? So these concepts were how I was raised. And so the idea of learning to do something by doing nothing almost felt like I had to smoke something to get there, right? Like, oh yeah, that's how you do that, right? Later on, I learned that both of those were the extremes, that you were trying to learn how to work somehow in the middle. And it was funny because I remember reading one time that the Taoists not just appreciate, but protect the simplicity of life. Because the simplicity of life is where you find the joy. It's where you find the camaraderie, right? It's in those simplicities. Unfortunately, I had to look in the mirror and realize that nobody had made my life more complex than I had. All the damn rules I had in order to be happy. All the rules I had to have in order to judge myself against others. Where am I? All this kind of crap that became the rules of how I was going to judge to decide if I was going to be happy today or not. I was going to let the outside world decide if I was going to be happy today. Right. And that was the sort of thing that I started peeling back. And then later I remember reading that the Taoists, they're almost their worst enemy physically and philosophically for the longest time were the Confucianists. Right. The Confucian were all about the details of language, the details of hierarchy, the details of strategy, the details of principle-oriented systems. Okay. The Taoists and the Confucius, the Taoists considered the Confucius, if you're at the picnic of life, the Confucian are the flies that interfere with it. Okay? Because they just mess it all up, right? Language. y'all have heard me oftentimes say I used to be ridiculed, and probably still am. I know I still am, because when I do my podcast, sometimes I do get ridiculed because I don't make quite as much effort as many feel like I should in the pronunciation of certain things, and the actual choosing exactly the right words in different places. It's because I really don't give a damn. What matters is, did you get the message? Now, if you got the message and I use the wrong grammar and things like that, good for me. Right? I mean, grammatically, you don't necessarily have to always be correct. Some are perfect in grammar and they can't get a damn message across to anybody. That's your Confucius approach, right? Keep it simple. Now, all that being said, that's the philosophies that we're always trying to practice and teach in our Tai Chi, because now you're trying to be physically responsible for that simplicity. Being still is your first place to try to practice it. Can you feel buoyant? Like you're sunk in the ocean and able to move, without being, collapsed or, looking like you're giving a crap on yourself while you're standing there. You have to be able to find a buoyancy. My Sifu used to say that, Tim, you look constipated, because that's exactly how I looked when I was posting. I got it, Sifu. Right? Don't complicate it. That's not going to work. I can tell you it's not going to work. Eventually you'll surrender and figure it out. Now, when you're practicing, one of the things that's also true in its simplicity is that you will never, and I'm going to say that because I don't say it often, but I'm going to say it again. You will never understand Tai Chi well enough to embrace it if you don't practice push hands. Okay? You might think your way through it. You might believe that you look good doing it. Okay? The posting and the push hands are the mortar that holds all the techniques. The technique is equivalent to proper grammar. You can have all the right words and have no message. You can have all the right techniques and have no soul in your Tai Chi. The push hands is by far the simplest way to learn, because the only way you can learn to practice buoyancy, right? You take buoyancy, you apply it here. That means if I'm up like this, I'm no longer buoyant. I'm up on the earth. My chi is too high. I have to sink it just a little. And he can feel every change I make, even though you may not be able to see it. Okay? The second is, when you're buoyant, can you rotate? Take just a moment, just standing there, wherever you are. And I'd like for you to close your eyes. Well, don't close your eyes yet. Just watch me for a second. Okay? One of the things in Tai Chi that you're learning to try to practice is not meeting force with force. Now, for some of you, it may not be a problem to understand that. For me, that was very hard. Because again, if I met an oncoming force, I just need to hit it with a bigger hammer. This was exactly opposite of what I had to try to embrace in my mind. But I had to also get past my rules. Learning to something doesn't mean that you're a wussy. Doesn't mean you're always backing up. Doesn't mean that you're always giving in. What it means is that you're going to let them believe for a moment that they got you. But you may add to their force. You may redirect their force, right? You may just do everything in the world except directly fight against their force. But there's a number of things that you've already learned. I can pung, I can loi, I can ji, right? There's a lot of things I could do with an oncoming force. One of the things you have to kind of get used to in the beginning, though, is learning to go with it a little bit. Okay? Don't fight the rapids. Go with it a little bit. So what I want you to do is take a moment and just imagine if someone was kind of pushing on your right shoulder, and give a little bit. And give a little bit. And then close your eyes and imagine that you could feel my hand gently pushing on your shoulder, and you give and come back. You give and come back. Okay? almost like a gentle rubber band. It gives a little bit, and then it's going to come back. The elasticity. Try not to slide and shift and all the other stuff. Keep the center of your gravity from the top of your head to the tip of your tailbone. Keep that integrity. Don't slide out of the way. Don't bend back. Give. Like if you were pushing the door of a revolving door of a bank and you felt that and you went, whoop. Okay. Good. Now let's do the left shoulder. Just imagine it that it rotates back and comes back to neutral. Rotates back, comes back to neutral. Now, all we're practicing right now is giving with the force. Okay. Like a leaf falling the river. That's all we're doing. No technique. Just a gentle, the leaf follows the river. Okay. Now, shake that out a little bit. I know this isn't very complicated, but it's extremely important because what you're trying to find, in fact, y'all all take a step this way. Step over this way so that the crowd can see you. Okay. What you're trying to find is that center line inside your body. Okay. And you're trying to learn right now how to use that center line. All right. And so now let's see. All right. So we did the right shoulder, then we did the left shoulder. Now what I want you to do is close your eyes. And this time imagine that on the right shoulder, but from behind, so that if Ryan's pushing my right shoulder, I roll with it. I roll with it. Okay. I'm not bending forward, sliding out of the way, all those other abominations, right? Try to see if you can actually just rotate and give a little bit. That's good. Why don't you walk around and gently give a couple of push or two? I'm going to do the same thing. And come back to neutral. Hold, wait for me. I'll give you a few, okay? Okay. Now let's go to the left shoulder. For just a few reps. Turn from the center line. There you go. Okay. As you're doing this practice, I know a couple of you, when you first start, okay, when you turn, watch me for a second. When you first turn, you're going to turn and everything's going to turn like so. You see where my head's going? What I'd like for you to learn to do is to practice to keep your head forward. Okay. In the beginning, that's very difficult. Okay. I'm not going to lie. Right. The reason that you want to keep your head forward, it mostly is so that as he's turning and you're turning with it, you can still decide what you're going to look at. Okay. In the beginning, your head will move with your shoulders. It's okay, but just be aware of it that eventually you'd like to be able to have a rotation of stillness around that center line. All right. So now let's go to the next part. Is that let's imagine for the moment here, we're not going to do all of them again, but you're in the same position. You're trying to find that center line, and imagine that you get pushed near the right hip. Okay, that you feel that push in the right hip, and you're giving with it. You're giving with it. Okay, try not to collapse, but eventually what will happen is when you feel that you're coming through the right side of your lower quadrant, and that's basically what we're looking at is the three quadrants, upper, middle, and lower, is that while you're rotating, eventually one day you're going to step with it. Okay, but right now you just have to learn to give with it, and then you can give and step, because as he's going that way, I'm going the other way. That's the yin and yang. That's where you start working with the yin and yang. But first you have to physically not be going, oh, hell no. No. Stand your ground, right? All that stuff, you're going to end up eventually. No wall has ever stood the test of time, ever, in the history of mankind. It eventually falls, right? So you don't want to be the wall that falls. You want to learn how to give a little, and then imagine the other side, give a little. Couple more. Okay. So those practices, what we would just feel the oncoming forces, because a lot of times when I would practice, Sifu would teach us something, and then my classmates who were, either Delta Force guys or Rangers, they would get sent out on a mission and be gone. And so there were many times I would have to practice by myself till one of them returned, or one of my other classmates might pop in. And those were almost the scariest practices. Y'all have experienced it. I think you even mentioned it one time, Kathy, is that, when you come out here to practice and you're the only one that I see, then it's like, oh crap, right? Because then Sifuitis sets in, right? So I've had those experiences. But when you're practicing by yourself, and let's say you're just getting ready for some posting, it's okay, bring my mind back inside. But see, because that's all internal. That's all internal work. You're feeling and trying to make sure you maintain the integrity, so that when you get into complicated movements and you start to see these rotations, which is why the push hands thing was so important, is that as his oncoming force comes, I give with it a little bit, but I didn't lean back. I didn't fight it. And then when I come forward again, I take my right hip and my right shoulder, and I shift my weight a little bit. And I'm trying to learn first is the first level 1 of push hands, okay? For Bruce Eads, Bob Speed, Bader, Ryan already knows this. Level 1, if you're ever helping a younger classmate, level 1 is first to learn to stay connected and learn to listen, the word listen, or feel, and basically the size of a quarter, everything that you need to do. That's part 1, level 1. Learn to stay adhered, and then the 4 listenings. Okay, how hard is he moving? How soft is he moving? How slow is he moving? How fast is he moving? Well, first you have to ask yourself, how hard am I? How soft am I? How fast am I? How slow am I, right? You go through all 4 of those in yourself, because you're trying to pay attention to you first and foremost, especially in the beginning, so that you're not all over God's creation, making my eyes hurt, or the other one, right? Push. I'm not giving. No, short term. Right? Okay. And you will run across those. We have some of those that have been through here, haven't we, Bader? So, push hands is absolutely necessary for the physical practice of the philosophy, because the philosophy ain't worth a spit if you can't put sweat on it. Okay. Now, I just borrowed that line from Sifu Chen, but I also borrowed it from Pale Rider, Clint Eastwood, right? And it's the same thing. Philosophy, Sifu Chen would always tell us, you are supposed to be able to physically represent everything that I tell you. So if you want something to go up, think down. Anything like that, you had to be able to physically represent it. Not tell him what it meant, show me. I used to tell him that he teaches Missouri Kung Fu, right? Because he didn't care if you knew all the Confucian right language. He cared if you could simplify it to make it work. Does all that make sense? I hope. Try to digest it. This recording will be up in the next day or two so that you can go back and listen to it. But first lesson, memory of tonight, push hands is absolutely necessary if you're going to embody Tai Chi. If you want to do Tai Chi Bo like taekwondo or whatever else is called. That's okay. But you don't have to get violent to learn Tai Chi Chuan for better wellness and health. But you do need to be able to practice push hands. Okay. You can practice some on your own by using internal work. This helps you find the integrity of the line. The exercises help you find how to move with it. And later you'll learn how to move with it as you're doing something else. Okay? Any questions online? We're all good? Okay. Any questions out here? No. Okay. All right. So we got time. All right. What I want to do right now is let's think about that rotation. We're going to go through the fire set. Okay. But I want you to think about how you're rotating. The fire set's a good place to practice that and feel the integrity of the center line as you're shifting back and forth so that you eliminate the leaning. The bending. Okay. Because it's okay if you translate into English. A lot of times you'll read a Tai Chi book and they'll say, well, you shouldn't bend. That's not literally what the Chinese character, at least the way it was explained to me, meant. There's a difference between bending and leaning. Every athletic performance that you will ever see or learn that has any degree of power has leaning in it, because leaning is what helps design the structure to an athletic body, whether I'm a linebacker, right, or a baseball player, right, or if I'm leaning back ready to hit a pitch, right. Even golf has a twist and lean to it, right? But you cannot bend. You can't bend. Once you bend the lines instead of leaning the lines. So if I'm posting and I'm bent, you're going to get a little correction from me. If you're doing Tai Chi and you bend, or worse, let's say you're pushing against this champion. I mean, he's literally a champion of push hands. And if you come in here and you start bending on him, you are going to eat it, right? He's going to put your face in the dirt in a whole second, or worse for me, right? My pride is that, and if I bend back, he's going to feel like he's at a buffet. He's just going to eat you alive, right? You will never defeat him by bending. Now, you might be able to lean, but you will never bend and get by with it. You will be punished. And punishment is a good teacher. That's also the other part of the nice thing with push hands. You get to experience. I used to go home with a big handprint in my chest. Hated it because my pride hated it, but I got better fast, right? Because I hated it. All right, so let's do this. I'm in front of the camera here. You'll face this way. Let's get in a little position. We'll go through. Yeah, we got time. We'll go through the whole thing of the fire set, okay? First, let me calm down. Let's take a breath. I start pushing hands and that spirit just raises right up. So let's just sit down for a second and let me take a few breaths. I'm going to take a step this way. If you don't mind, take a step that way and back. There you go. Good. Okay, let's shift the weight. Hold the baby. Move the integrity of that line just like we were talking about. It's already began, right? Step out, shift, and then rotate a little. Good. Then we're going to hold the baby. Step out, shift your weight, and begin to rotate a little in the mirror hand. Reach out a little, roll the hand. Now keep the integrity of the line, sit back. Good. Then the hand will float a little bit, slow it down. And then you begin to press and rotate, adhering. Wash the back of your hand. Pull. And then push. Good. Hold the move. Sit back. Feel the integrity of that center line. And now turn it as a unit. Bring that foot with you. Uh-huh. And then slide the weight over and relax the touch. Good. Separate the clouds. Hold the baby. Step out. Shift the weight. Rotate a little. Reach out and roll over the hands. Sit back. Keep your head up. Your eyes up. 45 degrees out. Right hand comes to rest on your wrist. Pressing forward, adhering to that forward arm. Wash the back of your hand. Pull in. Push out. Good. Let's sit back and clear the table. Good. Everybody together. Nice. Step out. Shift weight. Rotate. Don't let the hand do the work. Let the waist do the work. And then out. Same thing here. Sitting back. Let the arms rise. Turn the center line to the corner. Nice. Then keep that integrity. Turn it. Exhale. And out. Now everything returns to neutral. The hands come up to the level of the heart. The foot rises, toe rises. And we clear the table going the other way. Keeping everything together. Jeff, you're looking good. Rotate the waist. And then out. Good. Stay right there. Everybody's together. Let's exhale. Sit back. Fan the arms up. Turn. And down. Then turn the belly button. Rotating back. That long arm slicing down to the opposite pocket. Then you rub a little tiger balm on your elbow as you come up into your crane cool swims. Never in a rush. No. Let everything return to neutral now. The hands are at the level of the heart. The toe rises. You're going to listen to the seashell. You're going to step out. Turn the waist. Come into your brush knee. Turn that forward toe out just a toe print. Settle your weight forward and then bring it up. Good. Put the toe back. Rotate the waist just like we spoke about. Somebody's pushing you on the left shoulder. Then you sit back and you blade it just a little. Good. All right. From here, we listen to the seashell. Turn. Good. Turn that toe print out just a little. Settle your weight forward. And come right up into your golden rooster. Put the foot back, ball of the foot, heel of the foot, bend the knee, sitting back. Good. From here, set forward. The hands rolled back and down toward the pocket. The hand floats. Put the ball in the glove. That's it. Shift the weight. Backhand. Intercept. Then the white snake stretches out. And then it rolls through the grass. Turn the waist. Center punch. Then the waist rolls back a little. Put the hand under the elbow. And then two hand push. Everybody take a breath. Just stay right there. Reach up and out. Pull the rope back. Let the hands float up. You're going to shift the weight, turn the waist, backhand, intercept. Pull back and down while the other hand slides out. White snake stretches out. Rolls through the grass. As you shift the weight, rotate the arm. And out. Let the hand float under the elbow now as you sit back a little. And then exhale as you push forward. As we come into the close, I want you to take your time and pay attention, okay? Sitting back, turn, push the sky. Find that center line. Okay, Ryan was just working with Bader on this a few minutes ago. And step out, sit down, gather the clouds. Cross hand. Bring it up with the cross hand. Bring the foot in. Push down as you stand up. And finish your Tai Chi. Okay, good. All right. So in closing tonight, just as a little reminder, we have physical disciplines and then we have behavioral disciplines that we're always trying to practice, right? Because Sifu would always tell us that, you can practice Kung Fu all day long. You can practice Kung Fu all day long. You decide whether or not you're practicing. The outside world will always give you plenty of opportunity, whether it's somebody who cuts in front of you in line, whether it's somebody who says something that feels like that's an oncoming force, right? There's so many chances to practice. But the one thing that really hit me later is that there's a few things in this world that you can control. The Buddhists were very good about teaching this part. Most of life you can't. Okay. So the three things that you always have control over is your attitude, your effort, and your focus. If you want to focus on that the world is shit, that's exactly what you're going to find. If you're going to focus that, I'm a victim in this world, and that's your attitude, you're always going to be the victim in this world. If you make a half-ass effort, I hope you never expect more than a quarter results. Okay? Attitude, effort, and focus. That is the center line of the integrity, just like the center line of your balance. If you can't find that center line of your attitude, effort, and focus, your behavior is going to go all over the place, just like your body will if you can't find that center line. Right? The other thing is that those are the only three things that you actually have control over, not even your health, because your great-great-great-grandparents did stuff that you don't know about that affects your health today. We call it family history, right? Now, you do have influence over that. Eating at Bojangles every day isn't going to help you if your great-grandparents always had heart problems. So you have some influence, but you don't have control over that. There's things like that you can apply, and it's exactly a physical representation of the internal principles that you might have. Okay? So I leave you with that because that's important to meditate on. It's something to consider as you're doing your posting. Love you, and I'll talk to y'all.